Alright guys, just like the title states, 5 must-see movies that you probably missed. Some of these were flops, some were actually real successful, critically acclaimed even, but they're just not as popular for the average moviegoer. What I mean is, a lot of the actors that's on this list are what you would consider household names, but these aren't necessarily their signature roles. So I'm just going to jump right into the list. Number 5 is Revolutionary Road, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. And of course, when you think of these two, you think of Titanic because of its epic success, but Revolutionary Road was also a great film. It takes place in the 50s where DiCaprio plays Frank Wheeler and he meets this aspiring actress played by Kate Winslet. They get married and they move to Connecticut and find a house on Revolutionary Road. He ends up at a job that he hates and she just ends up becoming pretty much a housewife that lacks fulfillment. She kind of feels like something's missing. I don't want to say too much about the plot because I don't want to ruin it for you, but I'll just say that this is a great romantic drama with superb acting by DiCaprio and Winslet. Kathy Bates and Michael Shannon also deliver a powerful performance in this, so check this one out. Revolutionary Road. Number 4 is Matchstick Men. This is an excellent movie where a con man, Roy Waller, played by Nicolas Cage, suffers from OCD and Tourette's. Sam Rockwell plays like his protege, and one day out of nowhere a teenager shows up on Roy's doorstep and says she's his daughter. So he takes her in and you kind of get to see Roy transition into this father role as his values start to change, but at the same time his life of crime starts to catch up with him. So there's a lot going on in this movie, not a dull moment. If you missed it, check it out. I think you'll love it. Number 3 is Sideways. This is a dramatic comedy where Paul Giamatti plays a divorced alcoholic named Miles Raymond. He decides to take a road trip with his soon-to-be married friend Jack, played by Thomas Hayden Church. During the trip, Jack decides to relive his glory days and have a fling before he gets married. Unlike Matchstick Men, this movie doesn't have a lot going on, but it's incredibly funny. It's really about the character development and the contrast between Raymond and Jack. Some people hated this movie, some people loved it. I personally loved it. Like I said, it's a dramatic comedy, so it's not for everyone, but if you like movies like Fargo and The Big Lebowski, then I think you'll love this one. Number 2 is Frailty. This is a psychological thriller where Fenton Meeks, played by Matthew McConaughey, walks into a police station and tells a detective that the serial killer that they've been after for the last 20 years is in fact his demented father that claims to have revelations from God on who he should kill next, which is played by Bill Paxton. This is a twisted, well-directed, well-acted roller coaster ride, and if you're in the mood for this type of film, check this one out. You won't be disappointed. And the number 1 movie that you probably missed that you must see is House of Sand and Fog. This is a masterpiece with an all-star cast starring Ben Kingsley, Jennifer Connelly, and Shreya Dulshu. This is centered around a property dispute between Connelly and Kingsley. So what happens is Connelly neglects to pay her property taxes and she gets foreclosed. Kingsley jumps on the opportunity to buy her house in an auction for a fraction of what it's worth. This movie has a little bit of everything: drama, suspense, romance, conflict, and there's no clear-cut protagonist because you're seeing it from each character's perspective. I could go on, but in short, this is an excellent film. If you've never seen it, check it out, you'll love it. And in case you've seen all these movies, I'm going to give you a few more that almost made the list but didn't make the cut. Take Shelter with Michael Shannon. This takes place in a small town in Ohio, and Shannon plays a husband and father that starts having these visions of the apocalypse coming by a storm. So he starts to build this shelter, and of course his wife and the community thinks he's delusional, and it's kind of a dark thriller with a great performance by Michael Shannon. Another one you might have missed is Rounders. And if you missed this movie, it's probably because you thought it was just about poker and gambling. But even if that's not your cup of tea, it doesn't mean you won't like this movie. The story is centered around poker, but it's really about Mike McDermott, played by Matt Damon, and he's stuck between staying in law school and working his way through college to secure a solid financial future versus doing what he really loves, which is playing poker. And this also has some great performances by Damon, Edward Norton, and John Malkovich. And finally, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. I wanted to give you at least one movie from each genre, so this is an action movie about 2 bikers played by Mickey Rourke and Don Johnson. They find out that their old stomping ground called the Rock and Roll Bar and Grill is in foreclosure, so they have to do whatever it takes to save it. So they end up robbing an armored truck, but instead of stealing money, they accidentally rob a drug lord played by Tom Sizemore. So he sends some goons to shoot up the Rock and Roll Bar and Grill, and they kill everyone involved except for, of course, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. So they decide to avenge their friend's death. This was considered a huge financial flop, but it was actually a real good movie for this genre. It was made in the 90s, but it takes place in the future, and this is a quirky action movie with a great soundtrack, and it's fun to watch. If you like action movies in the 90s like Die Hard and Demolition Man, then I think you'll really enjoy this one. So there you have it, guys. 5 movies, actually 8 movies that you might have missed that you can watch this week while we're in quarantine. So stay home, stay safe, and as always, thanks for watching.